The stars of the Kalari Empire shone brighter than anything Sam had ever seen. Their light danced across the curved windows of his small silver ship, the Aurora, as it drifted through the silent beauty of space. For a long moment, Sam just stood there, watching. He had traveled farther than any human before him, beyond the edges of mapped space, to deliver one message, a message from Earth to the oldest and most powerful empire in this corner of the galaxy. Sam was not a soldier, not a scientist, not even a famous diplomat. He was simply a man who believed that words could build bridges stronger than steel. That belief had carried him across cold black space for 6 long months. Now at last his journey was almost done. Ahead of him floated the Kalari homeworld, a vast planet wrapped in soft blue light. From orbit it looked like an ocean of crystal. Cities shimmered like tiny stars on its surface. The Kalari called their world Solara, which in their language meant the heart of stillness. To Sam it looked alive, breathing softly beneath the endless night. As his ship entered the planet's atmosphere, his hands trembled slightly. The Aurora's control lights flickered green, and the translator chip in his ear whispered in a calm, mechanical voice. "Landing clearance granted. Welcome, human envoy Sam." He smiled nervously. "Thank you," he said to the empty air. His voice sounded small inside the cabin. The landing platform was like a glass lake. When the ship touched down, it made no sound at all. Waiting there were 5 Kalari, tall, graceful beings with luminous skin that changed color with emotion. Their eyes were large and calm, shining with a soft inner light. Sam had read about them before, but seeing them in person was something else entirely. They looked both alien and gentle, like living art. The tallest one stepped forward. Her skin glowed a shade of silver blue. "You are welcome, envoy of Earth," she said in smooth, clear tones. The translator repeated her words in English almost perfectly. "I am Nira, first attendant to the Queen." Sam bowed slightly. "Thank you, Lady Nira. I'm honored to be here." "You travel far for peace," she said, tilting her head. "Few would cross the void only to offer friendship." Sam smiled softly. "Sometimes friendship is the hardest mission." Her eyes brightened for a moment, the Kalari version of a smile. "Come," she said. "The Queen awaits." They led him through corridors that shone like light made solid. Everything seemed alive. The walls pulsed faintly, the air hummed with warmth. It was quiet but not empty. The Kalari did not use machines like humans did. Their technology grew rather than clanked. It was all organic, smooth, and silent. Sam walked slowly, trying to take in every detail. He thought of Earth, the cities, the traffic, the chatter of people. Compared to this world, Earth was loud and restless. Here everything felt balanced, calm, almost sacred. Finally, the corridor opened into a grand hall. It was vast, filled with soft light that seemed to come from the floor itself. At the far end, seated upon a raised platform of crystal and light, was Queen Asera. Sam had read her name 1,000 times in mission files. The ruler of 12 star systems, a leader whose wisdom was said to stretch beyond centuries. But nothing had prepared him for the quiet grace of her presence. Her skin shimmered with golden light, and her eyes, deep violet, reflected not power, but calm curiosity. When she spoke, her voice was soft, musical. "You are the one they call Sam of Earth." He nodded, feeling his heart beat faster. "Yes, Your Majesty. I come on behalf of humanity, to share our greetings and hopes for peace." She studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "Peace is a rare word among young races. Tell me why now?" Sam hesitated. "Because we've learned enough to know how much we still don't understand. We've fought to survive for so long, now we want to learn how to live among others." The Queen's expression didn't change, but her skin dimmed slightly. A Kalari sign of deep thought. "And what is it that you offer?" "Understanding," Sam replied quietly. "And the promise that humanity will walk among the stars not as conquerors, but as friends." For a few moments there was silence. The Kalari around the room stood perfectly still, watching their queen. Then slowly Asera rose. "Very well, Sam of Earth. Your message has been received." Her words were simple, yet something in her tone made Sam feel a strange warmth, like sunlight through glass. The translator in his ear whispered, "Message accepted. Alliance under consideration." He bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Queen stepped down from her platform. She stopped a few feet away from him, her gaze thoughtful. "You came alone?" "Yes," Sam said softly. "Sometimes a single voice can carry more than a fleet." The corners of her eyes brightened slightly. A poetic answer. Perhaps that is why they chose you. He smiled. Or maybe I was just the only one foolish enough to volunteer. The Queen's glow brightened again, the Kalari equivalent of laughter. Foolishness, she said, is often the first step to discovery. For the next few days, Sam remained in the royal city. He was treated as an honored guest, shown their gardens, their learning halls, their great archives of light. The Kalari were polite, almost too polite. They answered his questions but never asked any of their own. It was as if curiosity had faded from their people long ago. One evening, Nira guided him to a balcony that overlooked the glowing city. The towers shone like glass trees, and in the distance the ocean sparkled with its own inner light. "You seem restless," Nira said gently. Sam leaned on the railing. "It's beautiful here, peaceful. But it feels like something's missing." Nira's glow dimmed slightly. "You see well, human. Our people have grown beyond need and conflict. But with that, we have lost something too, the will to reach for the unknown." Sam nodded slowly. "On Earth, we're always reaching. Sometimes we fall, but we keep trying. Maybe that's what keeps us alive." Nira looked at him, her eyes calm. "Perhaps that is why the Queen wanted to meet you herself." Sam turned to her. "What do you mean?" "She has watched many races rise and fall. But none have spoken of hope the way humans do. To her you are unusual," he chuckled. "I've been called worse." Nira smiled faintly, then looked back at the city. "Tomorrow you will speak again with the Queen. She wishes to ask one last question before you leave." "Tomorrow," Sam repeated softly. His heart tightened a little. The mission was nearly over. After tomorrow, he'd return to his ship, send the final report, and begin the long journey back to Earth. He should have felt relief. Instead, he felt something else, a quiet sadness he couldn't name. The next morning, the great hall was quieter than before. Only the Queen waited there. No attendants, no guards. She stood beside a tall window, the light of Solara's twin suns painting her form in gold. "Sam of Earth," she said as he entered, "you have brought us words of peace. You have spoken of hope. But I have one more question." Sam bowed slightly. "I'll do my best to answer, Your Majesty." She turned toward him. Her eyes seemed to glow deeper now. "Tell me," she said softly, "why do humans keep moving forward even when the stars turn cold?" Sam was silent for a long time. The question was gentle, but it carried weight. He thought of Earth, white of storms, of loss, of people rebuilding again and again. He thought of the ship that had carried him across the endless dark. Finally, he said, "Because we believe there's always something more. Even when everything fades, we look for a reason to begin again. We move forward because standing still feels like giving up." The Queen listened quietly. When he finished, she nodded once. "That is an answer I have not heard in many lifetimes." Then she turned back to the window. "Perhaps your people are not as young as they appear." Sam smiled faintly. "We still have a lot to learn." "As do we," the Queen said softly. Her gaze lifted to the stars. "Thank you, human messenger. You may return to your world. The message you brought will not be forgotten." He bowed deeply. "It's been an honor." When Sam left the hall, the corridors felt different. Not colder, just quieter. He knew his duty was done. Yet as he walked toward the platform where his ship waited, he couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't over. The aurora shimmered under the twin suns, ready to leave. Sam looked back once at the shining city of Solara, and at that same moment, high in her crystal tower, the Queen watched him too. Neither spoke a word, but in the silence between two worlds, something unspoken had begun, a spark neither human nor Kalari could yet understand. The morning light on Solara was gentle and blue. The twin suns had just risen, their rays reflecting across the shining towers of the Kalari capital. From his balcony, Sam watched the crystal gardens shimmer as the wind carried soft waves of color across them. The city was beautiful, calm, almost dreamlike, yet Sam couldn't enjoy it. Today was his last day on Solara. His mission was complete, his message delivered, and his ship was being prepared for departure. By evening, he would begin the long journey back to Earth. He should have been proud, even happy. But instead, there was a quiet ache inside him, like a melody left unfinished. A soft chime sounded. The door to his guest chamber opened, and Nira entered gracefully carrying a small silver case. Her skin glowed a warm green hue, the Kalari color for formal purpose. "Envoy Sam," she said with a light bow, "the Queen requests your presence in the Hall of Echoes." Sam blinked. "The Hall of Echoes? I haven't been there before." "It is where our Queen goes to think," Nira said. "She has asked that you come alone." "Alone?" "Yes. She says this is not a meeting of empires but of minds." Sam gave a small smile. "That sounds important." Nira's light dimmed softly. With Queen Asera, every word has a meaning. The Hall of Echoes was nothing like the royal hall where they had first met. It stood at the edge of the palace, surrounded by open sky. Its walls were not walls at all, but shimmering energy curtains that rippled with the motion of light. The floor looked like still water, but when Sam stepped onto it, it felt solid and warm beneath his boots. The Queen stood in the center, facing away from him. Her robe shimmered like sunlight through glass. When she turned, her violet eyes held that same calm power, the kind that didn't need to command, only to exist. "Sam of Earth," she said, her voice gentle. "You came." "I always come when invited," Sam replied with a polite smile. Asera's glow brightened slightly, the Kalari gesture of amusement. "You have a gift for light answers." "I find they travel better than heavy ones," Sam said. She seemed to like that. "Perhaps that is why your people travel so far," she said softly. Then after a moment she asked, "Do you know why I asked you here?" Sam shook his head. "I was hoping you'd tell me." The Queen stepped closer, her light flickering between gold and silver in a sign of curiosity. "You humans are strange. Your world is small, your years are short, yet you walk among stars as if you were born to them." "Why?" Sam blinked. "Why?" "Yes," she said. "Why do you keep moving forward even when you have everything you need on your own world?" For a while, Sam said nothing. He looked at the glowing horizon through the shifting walls of the chamber. Beyond the palace, the Kalari city shimmered with perfection. No pollution, no decay, no rush. The people walked calmly, purposefully. It was a world that seemed to have already reached everything humanity was still chasing. He turned back to her. "Maybe because we never think we have everything." Asera tilted her head. "Explain." "Well," he said slowly, "on Earth we always look for something new. A new place, a new idea, a new way to live. Sometimes it makes us restless, even foolish, but it also keeps us alive. We move because we're curious. We wonder what's beyond the next hill, the next planet, the next sunrise." The Queen's light dimmed a little, as if in thought. "Curiosity," she repeated softly. "A word we once used often long ago. You've lost it?" Sam asked carefully. She looked at him. "We have grown quiet. We no longer ask questions. We live, we build, we endure, but we do not seek. Once we looked at the stars and dreamed of what might be there. Now we only maintain what we already have. Our world is perfect, but our hearts are still." Sam listened, unsure how to answer. The Queen continued, her voice like calm music. "I wanted to meet you, Sam of Earth, because your words were not those of a politician. They were the words of someone who still wonders, and I wish to remember what that felt like." Sam smiled faintly. "Maybe we can remind each other of different things. Humanity can teach you to wonder again, and maybe you can teach us to slow down sometimes." For the first time, the Queen's glow turned a deep, warm gold, a sign of gentle joy. "You speak as though such exchange were possible. Why not?" Sam said simply. "Peace isn't just an agreement. It's a conversation that never ends." For a moment, they stood in silence. The energy walls of the Hall of Echoes rippled like calm waves. Outside, the suns rose higher, bathing everything in light. Then the Queen said, "Tell me more about your world." Sam blinked. "Earth? Yes, tell me what makes your people reach for the stars." He thought for a moment, then began slowly. "Earth isn't perfect. It's noisy, messy, full of mistakes, but it's also full of color and sound and life. We laugh, we argue, we create things just because they're beautiful. We look at the night sky and imagine stories in the stars. Even when things go wrong, we believe tomorrow can be better." Asera listened closely. "You speak of emotion as if it were energy." "Maybe it is," Sam said. "It's what pushes us forward when logic says to stop." "Fascinating," she whispered. Then, almost shyly, she asked, "Do your people still look at your moon?" Sam smiled at the memory. "Every night. Even when we've walked on it, we still look up. It reminds us how far we've come, and how far we still have to go." Asera looked toward the bright horizon. We once had two moons. One still shines above us. The other was lost long ago, and yet we stopped looking for it. Perhaps that was when our dreams began to fade. Sam's voice was soft. Maybe all you need is to look again. The Queen's eyes met his. In that quiet moment, something changed. Not romantic, not grand. Just a small connection between two minds from very different worlds. Hours passed like minutes. Sam told her about Earth's reign, about children who played in muddy streets, about music played not for profit but for joy. The Queen listened like a student, her questions growing faster, her glow shifting with every new idea. Your people dance? She asked at one point. All the time, Sam said with a grin. Sometimes even when there's no reason. And why? Because movement feels like freedom. Freedom, she repeated, tasting the word. Another we have forgotten. When they finally stepped out of the hall, the suns were beginning to set. The sky above Solara burned with soft orange and blue fire. The Queen turned to him and said, You have given me something more valuable than treaties, Sam of Earth. He frowned slightly. What's that? A question, he smiled. Then I've done my job. She nodded slowly. Perhaps your journey should not end yet. Sam blinked. You mean? But before he could finish, Nira appeared at the entrance, her light flickering politely. Your ship is ready, envoy. Departure is scheduled for the next rotation. Sam looked back at the Queen. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she said softly, Go if you must. But if ever you wish to return, Solara will not be closed to you. He bowed. That means more than you know. That evening, Sam walked through the crystal gardens one last time. The air smelled faintly sweet, and the pathways glowed beneath his feet. He passed groups of Kalari, their light soft and peaceful. A few greeted him with slight nods. Their curiosity was faint but visible. Something in them had changed, perhaps only a little. He reached a small hill where he could see the spaceport. The Aurora stood ready, silver and silent under the twin moons. His mission was complete. Yet as he looked at the sky, he couldn't shake the image of the Queen's eyes, deep and full of questions. For the first time since arriving, Sam realized he didn't want to leave. He sat there until the suns dipped below the horizon. The stars came out slowly, one by one, and somewhere behind the lights of the city, in her high crystal tower, Queen Asera stood by her window, watching the same stars. In her hand she held a small silver device, a human trinket Sam had given her that afternoon. When she pressed it, it projected an image of Earth's moon, floating like a pale jewel above her palm. She whispered softly to herself, Perhaps it is time we look up again. That night, two civilizations, worlds apart, looked at the same stars, both beginning to remember what it meant to wonder. And though Sam's ship would soon rise from the Kalari world, something invisible connected him to the Queen, not through treaties or politics, but through shared curiosity. The story of the human messenger was not ending. It was only pausing, waiting for the next step, the next question, the next journey. The sun rose slowly over Solara, spreading soft golden light across the crystalline towers of the capital. Sam awoke with a sense of anticipation and a quiet excitement he hadn't felt in months. The Queen had asked him to stay. She had not forced him nor demanded it, but her words from the previous day echoed in his mind. Perhaps it is time we look up again. He dressed quickly, slipping into the simple human uniform he had been provided. It was light and comfortable, suitable for walking through the gardens or the halls of the palace. As he stepped out of his room, Nira appeared, her skin glowing a gentle green indicating warmth and calm. Good morning, Envoy Sam, she said softly. The Queen awaits you in the Hall of Stars. Sam nodded. I will be there shortly. The Hall of Stars was unlike any other place he had seen on Solara. It was a massive dome made of crystal that bent the sunlight into patterns across the floor. Small spheres of floating light hovered mid-air, each one holding an image or memory of the Kalari past. As he entered, the Queen stood in the center, her gaze fixed on a glowing sphere that displayed the Solara night sky. Sam of Earth, she said, her voice gentle and musical. You have stayed, though your journey could continue. Why? He smiled softly. Because curiosity does not end with a message. Sometimes it grows when you least expect it. Asera regarded him quietly, then gestured toward the floating spheres. These are fragments of our history, our achievements, and our lives. But they lack color, laughter, and fire. You bring something new, human. Perhaps it is time you teach us. Sam's eyebrows rose. Teach you? Yes, she said, moving toward a sphere that projected the image of a Kalari city at night. Your people laugh in ways we have forgotten. You sing in ways that our ears no longer hear. Perhaps you can remind us how to feel, not just exist. Sam considered her words. I can try, he said simply. Over the next few days, Sam wandered the Crystal City with groups of Kalari, small children, and young students who had never known curiosity in its purest form. He began with simple lessons. In the gardens, he showed them how to play with colors in ways that made no sense but were joyful. He mixed pigments into the soft water of the reflecting pools, creating patterns that shifted like dancing light. The children watched, their eyes wide with wonder. Some Kalari adults hesitated at first, uncertain of the messy, chaotic beauty Sam encouraged, but gradually they joined in. Laughter, a sound Sam had almost forgotten existed here, began to echo softly through the gardens. Queen Asera observed all of it from a distance, her violet eyes thoughtful. She did not speak much, but her glow shifted subtly with each smile she saw. One afternoon, Sam took a group of Kalari children to a plateau overlooking the glowing city. Today, he said, we're going to learn about fire. The Kalari looked puzzled. Fire? One asked softly. Our world no longer needs it. No, Sam said, smiling. But fire is more than warmth. It is light, energy, and movement. It teaches patience and focus. We use it to create and to celebrate. Today, you will see what it can do. Using small, controlled energy orbs from the Palace Labs, harmless and safe, glowing like liquid sunlight, Sam taught the children to form patterns of light in the air. They danced and twisted the glowing orbs, creating shapes that floated before fading slowly. The children's laughter was bright and free, and soon even the Kalari adults joined. Tentatively at first, then with growing delight. The queen approached quietly, observing the scene. For the first time in centuries, she smiled fully, her skin radiating warm gold. You are teaching them more than tricks, she whispered to Sam. You are teaching them to feel. And you are learning too, Sam replied with a grin. She considered his words carefully. Perhaps I am, she said softly. Days turned into weeks. Sam's presence became a constant in the lives of the Kalari children. He shared stories of Earth, the rain, the mountains, the oceans, the songs humans sang for joy. He taught them simple games, exercises of balance and coordination that brought laughter and exhilaration. In return, the Kalari shared their knowledge of the stars and their history. Sam marveled at the archives of Solara, where floating crystal spheres contained the record of centuries. He learned about their voyages between star systems, their innovations in energy and communication, and their careful observation of the universe. Yet, for all their knowledge, something was missing. Sam noticed how their eyes rarely lingered on the skies, how their expressions were measured and calm but rarely curious. It was a civilization that had learned everything, yet had forgotten the thrill of not knowing. One evening, Sam took a small group of students to the cliffs overlooking the Solara Ocean. The twin moons rose slowly, casting silver reflections across the water. He handed each child a simple instrument, a set of strings and small resonating stones. Music, he said, is not only for hearing. It is for feeling. Every sound you make is a part of the universe. Let it flow through you. At first, the Kalari were cautious. The notes were strange, uneven, full of imperfections, but gradually they allowed themselves to play freely. The sounds mingled with the soft wind echoing across the cliffs. Sam played alongside them, strumming with gentle rhythm, teaching them to follow the pulse of life rather than precision. Queen Asera appeared at the cliff edge, her glow soft and steady. She did not intervene, merely watched, but Sam noticed her eyes lingering longer than usual on the young Kalari, and then on him. Something in her expression changed, curiosity, admiration, and perhaps a quiet hope. On the fourth week, Sam decided to teach them the simplest yet most important lesson he knew: imagination. He asked the children to close their eyes and imagine a world beyond Solara, a world filled with colors they had never seen, creatures they could not name, and skies that moved with light instead of clouds. The Kalari hesitated at first. How could imagination compete with the perfection of their world? Sam encouraged them gently. You can make anything you want. Nothing is wrong, nothing is impossible. Let it happen. Slowly, their eyes glimmered behind closed lids. Shapes, colors, and ideas began to take root. When they opened their eyes, small drawings appeared on the floating crystal pad Sam had given them. Shapes of creatures with multiple wings, oceans that shimmered with stars, trees that sang when the wind passed through. Even some of the adult Kalari began to draw, hesitating, then smiling at their own inventions. Queen Asera approached Sam quietly. "You have done what no one has done for centuries. You have made us remember how to wonder." Sam shook his head with a humble smile. "I only reminded you. You always had it inside you." As the weeks passed, Sam began to notice subtle changes across the city. The streets were quieter in a different way, not controlled but peaceful. The Kalari spoke to one another with warmth rather than measured tones. Children laughed more freely. Even the scholars, who had long been serious and reserved, began experimenting with color, music, and light. The Queen visited him one evening, holding a small floating sphere. It contained an image of one of the children laughing, their arms stretched toward the sky. "They are learning," she said softly. "They are," Sam replied. "And you are learning too." Her violet eyes shone with thought. "Perhaps. I have watched for centuries but never truly observed. You have shown me what it means to participate in life rather than oversee it." Sam smiled, feeling the weight of her words. "Sometimes all a world needs is a small spark. And sometimes," she said, "the spark is enough to light a whole civilization." One night, Sam sat alone on the balcony of the palace looking up at the stars. The twin moons of Solara reflected in the calm waters of the city, and the soft hum of light resonated through the air. He thought of Earth, of the people who were waiting for his return, and of the journey he had undertaken. Yet despite the longing to go home, he realized something important. He had found a place where his presence mattered not because of power or authority, but because of what he could share. And in doing so, he had become more than a messenger. He had become a teacher, a bridge, a friend. From the corner of his vision, a soft light appeared. Queen Asera stood silently, her glow serene. "You have brought life to our stillness," she said quietly. "I had forgotten what it meant to be awake." Sam looked at her and smiled. "We all forget sometimes. The trick is to remember." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "And perhaps," she whispered, "we will not forget again." In the weeks that followed, the Hall of Stars became a place of learning, laughter, and imagination. Sam continued to teach while the Queen observed, asked questions, and occasionally joined in. The city changed subtly, not overnight, but steadily. The Kalari learned to look at the skies again, to create for joy, and to let wonder into their hearts. Sam realized that this mission, this stay, had become something far greater than a diplomatic journey. It was the beginning of a new chapter for two worlds, one small human and one ancient alien, connected by curiosity, kindness, and the simple act of teaching. And somewhere in the glow of Solara, the Queen began to smile more often, not because she ruled, but because she remembered how to dream. The morning on Solara was calm, almost fragile in its beauty. The twin suns rose slowly, casting gentle gold and silver across the crystalline towers of the city. Sam stood on the balcony of the palace, feeling the soft light on his face. The breeze carried the faint scent of the gardens below, a mixture of strange flowers and the subtle hum of living crystal. Today, his ship awaited him at the spaceport. Today, he could leave, and yet he did not feel the usual relief of a mission completed. He felt a strange tug in his chest, a question that would not leave him alone. Should I go or should I stay? Nira appeared silently beside him, her calm glow reflecting in his eyes. "The Queen has requested your presence in the Hall of Decisions," she said softly. Sam looked at her. "The Hall of Decisions?" "Yes," she said. "It is where our leaders reflect on choices that affect not only themselves but all who follow. The Queen wishes to speak with you before you depart." He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the moment. Every step he had taken on Solara had carried meaning. Every lesson, every laugh shared with the Kalari children, every spark of curiosity he had lit. It all led to this. The Hall of Decisions was unlike any other hall he had seen. Its walls were made of pure crystal, glowing faintly from within. The floor was smooth, yet it seemed to ripple like water beneath his feet. Small orbs floated around the room, each containing a memory, a choice made long ago by the Kalari rulers. The air was thick with quiet anticipation. Queen Asera stood at the center, her violet eyes calm but thoughtful. Her glow was soft gold, the color of reflection. She did not gesture for him to come closer. Instead, she waited, letting him take the first step. "Sam of Earth," she said finally, her voice gentle. "You have taught us much. You have reminded my people what it means to wonder, to play, to create. You have given us a spark we had long forgotten." Sam bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, it has been an honor. Your people have given me as much as I have given them." Asera studied him for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been on Sam's mind for days. "Will you leave us now?" Sam hesitated. He thought of Earth, his home, his family, the people who were waiting for news of his mission. He thought of the Aurora, ready and waiting at the spaceport. His duty was clear. His orders were to return, yet when he looked at the Queen and the city, he felt a different call. Here he had found a purpose that went beyond diplomacy. Here he had witnessed curiosity return to a civilization that had almost lost it. He had become a teacher, a guide, a friend. He began, then stopped. Words felt inadequate. Asera's glow shifted subtly, the gold deepening with quiet patience. "Do not speak of duty yet. Speak only of what you feel." Sam took a deep breath. "I feel that I have only just begun to help. These people, your children, they are learning, but they will forget without guidance. And I feel I have a role here. One I cannot abandon." The Queen nodded slowly, as if she had expected no other answer. "And yet your people await you. Your home." "Yes," Sam said softly, "and I cannot ignore that. But if I leave now, all we have built here might fade. The spark could die." Asera walked closer, her presence calm and steady. "Then you are at a choice. To leave and return to Earth, fulfilling the duty that brought you here. Or to stay and continue what you have begun with my people." Sam looked around the hall, at the floating memories of past choices, at the shimmering walls that reflected light like liquid crystal. He thought of the children laughing, of the music that had filled the Hall of Stars, of the colors dancing across the gardens. He thought of the people of Earth waiting for his return and of the responsibilities that tied him there. "Sam," the Queen said softly, "you do not need to answer immediately. Reflection is part of every important choice. But remember, some choices once made cannot be undone." Sam nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He stepped toward one of the floating orbs. It contained a memory of a Kalari leader, standing alone before a council, making a decision that would shape generations. The expression on the leader's face was calm, yet there was a hint of uncertainty, a reminder that even the wisest could struggle when faced with a choice that mattered. He felt a sudden clarity. It was not about leaving or staying. It was about balance. Perhaps he could find a way to honor both his duty and the bond he had formed with Solara. Perhaps he could return to Earth but remain a bridge between two worlds. The Queen watched him carefully. "Have you decided?" she asked gently. "I think," Sam said slowly, "that I can do both. I can return to Earth, but I can also continue to teach, to share, to guide here. Perhaps not always in person, but through knowledge, through stories, through communication." Asera considered this. Then a faint smile appeared on her face. "Then you understand why I stopped you before you left. Not to bind you here, but to remind you that some missions are greater than their orders." Sam smiled. "I understand now." She extended her hand. "Then let us make a new beginning. Not for one world, but for two. Your journey does not end with departure. It begins again, in a different way." Over the next few hours, they worked together to plan what Sam would do upon his return to Earth. Together, they discussed ways to keep the spark of curiosity alive on Solara. They designed programs for exchange, teaching, and storytelling that could continue even in his absence. Sam's heart felt lighter as he realized that leaving did not mean abandoning. The Queen asked him to teach a few more lessons before his departure. Sam agreed gladly, knowing these final days would leave a lasting impression. He spent time with the children, with the young scholars, and even with some of the older Kalari, showing them how to create patterns with light, how to play with sound, and how to imagine worlds beyond their own. One afternoon, Sam sat in the Hall of Stars with the Queen. Outside, the twin moons reflected softly on the city. The hall was quiet except for the gentle hum of floating spheres. "You have changed my people," she said softly. They are beginning to see the beauty of curiosity again. And they will not forget, Sam smiled. It was already there. I only reminded them. The Queen's eyes held a faint glimmer of emotion. And you have reminded me as well. Perhaps that is the greatest gift of all. They sat in silence, watching the light dance across the spheres. Sam thought of Earth, of the family and friends who were waiting, and he realized that his choice to stay, even temporarily, had been the right one. Not because of orders, not because of protocol, but because it was the right thing for hearts and minds. The evening before his departure, Sam walked through the gardens one last time. The soft glow of the crystal plants reflected in his eyes. He passed the children who waved at him with smiles that shone brighter than any star. He passed the scholars who nodded respectfully, their curiosity renewed. Nira met him at the garden's edge. "Your ship awaits, envoy," she said, her calm green glow soft and steady. Sam nodded. "I know. But they will remember you," she said. "And perhaps one day you will return." "I hope so," Sam replied softly. That night, Sam prepared for departure. The aurora gleamed under the soft moons, ready to rise into the stars. He took a final look at the palace, the glowing city, and the distant horizon. Queen Asera appeared silently at the edge of the landing platform. "Sam of Earth," she said, her voice calm but warm, "you leave not because it is required, but because it is necessary. Go with the knowledge that you have left a mark upon us. And remember, the spark of curiosity you have given will not fade." Sam bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not forget Solara, and I will carry this with me to Earth for all to learn." Asera nodded. "Safe travels, human messenger." As the aurora rose into the sky, Sam looked down at the city one last time. Lights shimmered in the crystal towers, children waved, and somewhere high above the Queen watched silently. For a moment, he felt a strange pull, a desire to stay. But he also felt hope. Hope that his work would continue, hope that curiosity would flourish on both worlds. And as the stars stretched out before him, Sam knew that leaving was not an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter of learning, teaching, and connecting two civilizations across the vast expanse of space. He looked at the stars, and for the first time in weeks he smiled fully. The mission had changed him, just as he had changed the Kalari, and somewhere in the quiet glow of Solara, the Queen smiled too, knowing that sometimes the smallest spark could illuminate an entire world. The stars stretched endlessly before Sam as the aurora sailed through the silent expanse of space. Solara, the shining planet of the Kalari Empire, was now a distant glow behind him. Yet in his mind and heart, the city, its people, and the Queen's words lingered vividly. He felt a quiet satisfaction. The mission had been far more than delivering messages or signing treaties. He had shared knowledge, laughter, and wonder. He had reminded a civilization of curiosity, of joy, of imagination. And they had reminded him in return of patience, observation, and the beauty of stillness. The journey back to Earth was long, but Sam was not alone. Through the Aurora's communication systems, he had already begun sharing lessons and ideas with young scholars back on Solara. They sent drawings, stories, and even small inventions that reflected their growing curiosity. Each message filled him with warmth and purpose. He thought of Earth, of the people waiting for news, and realized that he carried two worlds within him now. Both had lessons for the other. Both could grow, explore, and dream together. And in this thought, he found hope. Hope that the spark he had ignited on Solara would continue to shine for generations. Upon entering Earth's orbit, the familiar blue and green of his home planet brought a smile to his face. Yet the city lights below seemed smaller now, simpler compared to the shimmering towers of Solara. He realized how much he had changed. He could see Earth with new eyes, as a place of possibility, of potential, of stories waiting to be told and shared. As the aurora landed, the ground crew rushed forward, excited to hear of his journey. Sam greeted them warmly, though his mind still lingered on the twin moons of Solara and the glowing eyes of Queen Asera. "Sam, what was it like?" one young officer asked, eyes wide with curiosity. "It was more than I could ever describe," Sam said with a soft smile. "I've seen worlds of light, people who have forgotten how to wonder, and a civilization that is ready to dream again. And I learned something too, that curiosity is never limited to one world. It can spread like fire carried on the wind. The officer nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of his words. Over the next few weeks, Sam shared his experiences with the leaders of Earth. But instead of formal reports or dry speeches, he spoke of the children of Solara who learned to laugh, of the scholars who began experimenting with colors and sound, and of a queen who remembered what it meant to wonder. He told them about the lessons of fire and light, the music that echoed across cliffs and the floating spheres of knowledge that captured both history and imagination. People listened, captivated not only by the story of an alien world but also by the human spirit that connected them. Sam realized that his work was only beginning, not just for Earth and not just for Solara, but for the bridge between the two worlds. He would continue to teach, share, and inspire, not as a messenger alone but as a link between civilizations. Meanwhile, back on Solara, life had subtly changed. The children remembered Sam's lessons, recreating games, colors, and music in the crystal gardens. Scholars experimented with ideas they had never considered before. Even the older Kalari began to smile more often, to ask questions, and to look at the stars with a sense of wonder. Queen Asera observed it all quietly from her high tower. She watched the city glow not with perfection, but with curiosity, energy, and creativity. It was a delicate, vibrant light, one that had been missing for centuries. For the first time in generations, the Kalari people were awake in a way that went beyond survival and efficiency. They were alive with imagination. Weeks after his return to Earth, Sam received a communication from Solara. It was a simple holographic projection of the Queen standing beneath the twin moons. "Sam of Earth," she said softly, her glow calm but bright. "Your departure has not ended our work. We continue to teach, to play, to wonder. You have left a spark in our hearts and it will grow. Thank you for reminding us what it means to dream." Sam smiled, the faintest warmth spreading through him. "And you have reminded me what it means to inspire. We will continue together across the stars." Earth began to change too. Inspired by Sam's lessons and stories, schools introduced new ways of thinking about imagination, creativity, and curiosity. Students experimented with new forms of music, visual art, and interactive stories. Scientists explored ideas not only for technology, but for beauty and innovation. Communities created spaces to share ideas freely, just as Sam had shared his knowledge with the Kalari. Sam walked among these humans, feeling their energy, their excitement, their drive. And as he looked up at the night sky, he imagined Solara, its crystal towers glowing softly, and children laughing beneath the twin moons. He imagined the Queen observing, smiling, and thinking of possibilities yet to come. Two worlds, separated by distance but connected through hope, curiosity, and imagination. That thought gave him peace. Months later, Sam returned to the Hall of Stars, not as a messenger but as a teacher in spirit. Even from Earth, he sent programs, messages, and stories to Solara. The children of the Kalari responded eagerly, creating their own works, building ideas, and sharing them back across the communication channels. He also shared Earth stories with them, tales of human inventions, songs, games, and experiments. Both worlds were learning from each other, teaching each other, and inspiring each other. Sam realized that this was the true mission, not diplomacy, not treaties, not fame. The mission was connection. The mission was inspiration. The mission was growth. One evening, as Sam watched the sunset over Earth's oceans, he thought back to the day he first stepped onto Solara. He remembered the quiet grandeur of the crystal halls, the laughter of the children, and the Queen's calm violet eyes. He smiled at the memory. He had traveled across the stars, expecting only to deliver a message. Instead, he had begun something much greater, a new chapter for two worlds. Somewhere far away, the twin moons of Solara rose over the glowing city. Children played in the gardens, scholars experimented with new ideas, and the Queen stood silently, watching and learning, remembering how to dream. And on Earth, children looked up at the stars, imagining worlds beyond their own. Songs, stories, and colors began to spread. Curiosity grew, connecting people and ideas. Sam realized something profound. A single spark, no matter how small, could change entire civilizations. A single messenger willing to share knowledge and hope could inspire wonder across the galaxy. He had left Solara, but he had not left his mission. The mission would continue. Through lessons, stories, and connections, both worlds would grow. And someday, perhaps, humans would return to Solara, not as diplomats or explorers, but as friends, teachers, and companions in curiosity. And maybe, in that future, the children of Solara and the children of Earth would meet, sharing laughter, music, and stories, seeing the stars together, imagining the impossible. As the night settled over Earth, Sam looked up at the sky. The stars shimmered, distant but alive. Somewhere out there, Solara's twin moons glowed softly in the distance, a reminder that curiosity, hope, and imagination were not limited to one world. He smiled. He had started as a messenger. He had become more than that. He was a teacher, a bridge, and a keeper of wonder. And across two worlds, the story continued, not ending but growing, lighting paths for generations to come. The galaxy was vast and quiet, yet full of life. Two civilizations, Earth and Solara, now shared more than just knowledge. They shared a dream, and that dream would travel across the stars, carried by human curiosity and the Kalari spirit of reflection. Sam leaned back in his chair, the soft hum of the aurora around him. He closed his eyes for a moment and thought of the children on both worlds. He thought of the laughter, the music, the light, and the colors that had filled the halls, gardens, and skies. And he knew, without doubt, that the story of the human messenger was not over. It would never be over. It was a story of connection, of hope, of the endless power of imagination. And in that thought, Sam felt complete.